Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna, and I am a self-mastery coach. If you are new to this channel, thank you for your energy. Thank you for stopping by. I do hope you benefit from this transmission, this channeling. And if you don't know anything about me, my passion, my job, if you will, is to help you know yourself. And why would that be important? Because when you truly know and understand yourself, you will be able to see and be conscious of how you use or misuse your power, and therefore how you can be more in your power. And we misuse our power in many ways. It doesn't necessarily mean that misusing power means that we are belligerent or mean. Yes, that is one of the things that it expresses itself, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an disempowered way of using our power. That's how I'm going to say it. So, if you are in alignment of wanting to experience a more joyful life from a space of being empowered yourself, then I believe you will find something useful in this channeling. And the reason why I do what I do is because it is my journey. I come from a very disempowered state. And in order for me to truly express my gifts, which is connection to source, I have to be able to recognize and accept my own power. Otherwise, I cannot help you see and accept yours. And that's because I would have no idea what I was talking about. So, as you can guess, probably from this short conversation, I myself have dealt with a lot of disempowerment in my life. And it has taken me, well, my entire adult life to get to a point where I can finally start to see where my power is. And this is a life's journey. It doesn't happen overnight. We don't learn to misuse our power overnight. It is something that we generally learn in our younger years, and we benefit from it at first. It helps us survive. It helps us feel loved. It helps us gain acceptance to a certain point. After a certain point, we begin to outgrow it, and it begins to hinder us. So if you are listening to this, chances are you yourself have experienced, or maybe are still experiencing at this point, a level of disempowerment within yourself where you don't feel like you are in your power. You feel powerless, perhaps. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to feel powerless to a great extent. It just could mean that you don't feel in charge of your life. Not in control necessarily, but in charge. There is a slight difference there. So I do hope you stay tuned. If this information helps you, which I hope it does, it will help you elevate your understanding of yourself, and as a result of that, it will help you shift and elevate your vibration. What happens when we elevate our vibration is we become a higher vibrating human beings. We begin to experience higher consciousness, and this is where our power is. And it isn't an easy process, to say the least, because when we are used to being in our disempowerment, to start exercising our power, because we never lose it, we just choose, and I will talk about what that means. We choose to not express our power or not engage in our power for various reasons. Some of the ones I've mentioned are pure survival. If this information helps you, perhaps share it with a friend. Perhaps click a like or subscribe so that you can stay abreast whenever new information is channeled and whenever new video is passed on. I just realized I used the word abreast. I never use that word, so I'm literally hearing the words to use. Some of you actually have said that you are learning to use words from me, and I'm like, English is my second language, so I'm learning how to use words every day. And a lot of the words that I use are being given to me by, I'm just going to call it the universe, by higher vibration, by source. If you are returning, as always, I want to thank you. Because without an audience, which is you, there would be no need for me to do it. And I've said this before, I absolutely love what I do. It brings me tremendous satisfaction to see you embodying your own power, to see you coming out of your own disempowered state. There's very few things that make me so joyful as seeing someone who begins to see their own value. And a lot of the time, if not most of the time, when we're in a state of disempowerment, it correlates with not recognizing, seeing, and or accepting our own value. And many times, clients ask me, what is my purpose? What is my purpose in this? What am I here to do? And a lot of the times, the answer is quite surprising. Because we are here to do many things. We're here to love, we're here to experience, we're here to laugh, we're here to cry, we're here to be happy, we're here to be angry. It's all an experience. But more often than not, what we are here to do is to experience how we see ourselves. So if you are dealing with disempowerment in your own life, and you are asking, what is my purpose? Perhaps your purpose is to recognize your own power, because this is where your power is in recognition of it. Whether you believe it, whether you agree with it, whether you trust it or not, you are a powerful being. When we put you under a microscope, you vibrate. You are electric. What's electricity? Electricity is power. That's not spirituality, that's science. You are a powerful being. So it's not a matter of taking your power back necessarily. It's about recognizing that you are powerful already, and how you choose to act or behave on or live in disempowering ways. Now let me explain the word choose. No one really chooses to act in disempowered ways just because they have nothing better to do. Generally, that's not the case. Generally, it's because we've learned to behave in a certain way in order to be loved, be accepted, to feel safe. If you, for example, grew up in an environment where your parent was abusive to you in some way, and the way for you to stay safe and not be subjected to this abuse, you learned how to keep yourself small, then that has served you. It has kept you from the plethora of energies coming your way from this particular person. And by keeping yourself small, by minimizing yourself, you have created less opportunities for the abuser to abuse you. And hence you would have learned that in order to escape certain things, you need to keep yourself small. You need to make yourself disappear. You need to keep your voice down. You need to hide. And that would have eventually become your natural pattern of dealing with life. So when I say choose, I'm not saying you're consciously saying, I'm going to choose to act in disempowered ways. No, that's not what I mean. I'm saying we resort to behaviors that are familiar to us. And at some point in our earlier lives, we made an instant choice or decision to act that way for self-preservation and to keep ourselves safe. So when I say choose, that is what I mean. It's not a conscious choosing. It's an unconscious behavioral pattern that we have used for many, many years in order to keep us safe, for example. However, there comes a time where we become adults and we have abilities or more abilities to deal with people like that, abilities that a child doesn't have. However, we still continue to use behaviors the way that we behaved as children or as young adults, where we didn't have tools, we didn't have ways to deal with people like this as an example. That's just an example. So today's topic is, are you ready to take your power back? And in order to take your power back, so to speak, because remember, it hasn't gone anywhere, we first have to understand, how do we behave in disempowering ways? And I want to talk about this from a perspective of looking how we contribute to our own disempowering behaviors rather than how other people make us be disempowered. I don't want to talk from that perspective. That is not my work. That is not where I choose to focus my energy. There's a very simple answer for that. And this is going to rub perhaps people the wrong way. That's okay. When we look at it from perspective of someone is making me, we are coming from a space of perpetually being a victim. Now let me just make something very clear. That is not to say that we have not been victimized. We all have been victimized in some way. If you are feeling disempowered, or if you have tendencies to act in disempowering ways, it is more often than not because of something that has happened to you that made you be a victim or you were victimized. And that is very real. That is not something I want to discount. However, if we keep being in that space, we are continually choosing to be in a victim space. Now, I'm not talking about you being in a situation where somebody's constantly being abusive to you. Well, actually, yes, I am. That's a drastic example. But even in that example, if we choose to stay in those situations, and I say choose for a reason, because we often choose to stay in those relationships, even though that's not what we want, because we are used to it. We are used to being in this energy, and it is something that is known and therefore strangely comfortable. That's why many times those who are in abusive relationships have a really hard time of leaving those. And it is generally because that relationship is just a continuation of what they have known, what has become familiar to them, what has been their world all along on some level. So, one of the things that we first need to observe in order to take our power back is to understand and accept that we are powerful. Just because we are acting in disempowered ways that does not mean we don't have power. We do. In fact, we are using our power to act in disempowering ways. Now, I know this is going to trigger some people, and that's okay. It would have triggered me in the past because it would have triggered me in the past. Let's just leave it there. So, are you someone who has a tendency to give your power away to other people? If the answer is yes, which means if the answer is yes, you consciously are aware of it, how do you do that in everyday life? What do you do to give your power away? Or let's rephrase. What do you do to consciously or unconsciously continue to act in disempowering ways? For example, do you hold yourself back because you feel rejection? It's very common. Do you don't speak up because you feel your words are not important, or you believe your words are not important? And this is something that you would have learned. Do you disengage from conversations and you shut down because you don't have tools, or you don't know how to stand up for yourself? So you instead retreat and you shut down. Because when you shut down, you disengage. When you disengage, you're no longer creating, you're just disengaged. Okay? Well, you're creating, but not necessarily what you want. When you think of yourself in negative ways, when you continue to put yourself down, to blame yourself for other people's problems, or to blame other people for your problems, that is also acting in disempowering ways. Okay? Why am I talking about this right now? Well, it's very interesting. I myself am going through a transition right now, and of course it's layers and layers and layers. I've been on this journey for over 2.5 decades. It has taken me this long to finally start to recognize my own power, and even then, I still sometimes retreat back to my old disempowering ways, where I see myself as very limited, as very small, as very insecure. But I'm able for the most part to find my way back out of that space and come back to this new space, which is much more empowered, much more fulfilling, much more integral to who I really am, not to who I thought I was or who other people said I was or should be, but who I truly am, which is a divine and powerful being. And so are you, every single one of you. And I have been asking the universe to help me disengage or disconnect from situations and people that are no longer serving me, that are hindering my ability to truly be in my own power. And I want to be very, what's the word, please? I want to be very clear in saying that when I talk about my power, I'm not talking about the ego power. I'm talking about the power that goes beyond the ego. It's that quiet, soft, gentle connection to all that is, where you don't have to prove anything to anyone, including yourself, because you know. You just know. And when you know, when deep inside of you, you know, you won't feel the fear of rejection, not nearly as much. You won't be perpetually looking for other people to validate you. You won't be constantly seeking attention. You won't be creating unhealthy relationships where other people need you. All those dynamics will just eventually go away. So the last full moon, which was about 2 weeks ago or so, I did my little ritual. I think I might have done a video on that. I wrote down of all the things that I would like to let go of, and some of the things were the ones I mentioned. And the one thing I've learned is that the universe has a really interesting sense of humor. Because the moment you ask to let go of something, a pattern, a behavior, the universe will nicely bring it to you on a silver platter to give you the opportunity to just do just that. In other words, the universe just doesn't take it away from me. The universe offers me an opportunity to deal with something in more empowering versus disempowering ways. So I have had quite a few situations in the last 2 weeks where such things were put right in front of my nose. It's like, okay, I asked for it. And every time it was presented to me, it created this, a bit of a havoc inside, because it triggered all these insecurities. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, if I do this, what are they going to think of me? Blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. This is my opportunity to do something different, to do something that I am uncomfortable with. And so I had to do some things that were very uncomfortable for me. Now, I didn't have to do a thing. The universe didn't force me and said, do this or else. No, that's not how it works. At least not from my understanding, not from my source, which is your source. The universe gently obliges to your request and says, absolutely, here it is. Engage in more empowering ways. So I had to say goodbye to some situations and some people that have, perpetuated my disempowering ways, And it was hard. It was challenging, to say the least. Now, of course, it had to be challenging, because if it was easy, it wouldn't be a challenge. But I had a choice. I could either continue what I was doing, or I had this thing in front of me and I had an opportunity to do something different. And the universe made it very clear to me that as long as I continue to engage in these disempowering ways, which is in my power, because I was continuing to engage in it. It was very clear, you cannot get to the next space where you want to be. And I tried to push it away. I thought, oh, I hope it just goes away. Nope. The universe is like, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Gently kept putting it in front of me. Long story short, I finally dealt with it. And I decided that I am going to put an end to something that has been part of my entire life, and I am 51 years old. And that is to engage in situations that would have tendencies to make me feel small, to undermine me, and consequently me not ever doing anything about it, not standing up for myself. Now, some of you have heard me talk about this before, and you say, I cannot believe that you're talking about this. Like, I look at you and that makes no sense. I am simply stating my truth. Whether you choose to believe it or not, that's up to you. I have no reason to lie about it. And the words that come to my mind is, don't judge the book by its cover. Because you never know what's inside a person. And the judging goes both ways. Some people may look at me and say, you look a certain way and therefore what you talk about makes no sense. Looks can be deceiving in both ways. So don't let the looks fool you, whatever that means to you. And I don't necessarily mean about me, I mean about anything or any situation. So back to the topic. We are all in transitions. We are all transiting from one state to another state, or from one level of consciousness to another level of consciousness. Every single individual is on his and her journey. Every single individual has their challenges. Every single individual has ways of dealing or not dealing with challenges. However, in times like these, when the new energies are converging with the old energies, where the old is on its way out and the new is on its way in, we can either resist the new and persist with the old, or we can welcome the new and take on the challenge. So with regards to your own power, your own level of empowerment, what is your biggest challenge? How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a powerful person? Or do you see and refer to yourself as small? Now again, when I say a powerful person, I don't mean the ego power. That is not what I mean. And you know the difference. You absolutely will know the difference. Unless you're in such a denial that you can't see night from the day. That does happen, but I don't feel that's you. Okay? Sometimes we deny what we know because it's easier that way. Sometimes we deny it because it's too painful to look at the truth. But as long as your truth about you is one of believing that you are small, that you are less than, that you are less valuable, whatever belief is that renders you very limited, as long as that is your truth, however deep it is, and however inconvenient it is to see, that truth will always be reflecting your reality on the outside. In other words, your life will reflect this to you. So one of the ways to bring your power back, or to start embodying your power, is to recognize what the lies are that you tell yourself. And we humans have a very interesting habit of lying to ourselves. Because sometimes lying to ourselves is more convenient than looking at the truth. And oftentimes when we lie to ourselves, we continually remain a victim. And when we continually remain a victim, then we believe that life happens to us, rather than us making life happen. And that is not to say that you are responsible for the weather tomorrow, no, but you are absolutely 100% responsible of how you experience the weather tomorrow. You can be angry, you can be happy, you can be accepting of it, you can be resisting of it, and probably other ways. This is where your power is to recognize that how you experience something is up to you. Now, if you're being abused, okay, just as an example, of course I'm not saying, oh, you can experience this as a positive experience. Of course I'm not going to say that. Of course I'm not going to say that. However, I will say this. If you are in that environment, what part of you has to believe what in order to be in this situation? Because remember, what we are attracting to ourselves is aligned with what we believe, not necessarily consciously. In fact, it's mostly unconscious. This is where my work is. It's to help people see and understand their unconscious patterns and behaviors, their unconscious truths, which are linked to unconscious beliefs. Because in order to change a habit, to change a pattern, to change a belief, to change your truth, you have to be conscious of it. You cannot change something you don't understand. Or worse, you cannot change something you're not aware of. Also, when we feel disempowered, it almost always leads to or is linked to our inability to see and accept our own value. So one of the ways that we act in this disempowered ways is we look towards others to validate or approve of us. I used to be notorious with that. I still have it to some extent, but it's nowhere where I used to be. And here's what's something interesting. If you are someone or you know someone who is always seeking others' approval, in other words, we want the outside to see and recognize something about us, then that means if we want them to see our value, then that means our value is within us, yes? If I want you to see my value, okay, if I am constantly seeking approval, that means I am asking you to see my value. If I'm asking you to see my value, then that means I have it, yes? Otherwise, they can't see it. So if I have it, why can't I see it? So if you want someone to see your value, that means the value is inside of you already. So if it is inside of you already, why can't you see it? What part of you is not able to see it or recognize it? And therefore you need somebody else to. Because here's the thing. I will see your value. In fact, I do already. But if you don't see it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because if you do not see it, you cannot accept it. And if you cannot accept it, you cannot embody it. Which means you're not going to think of yourself as a valuable person. And this is what I often found strange. It came to me a few years ago. We want people to approve us. We want people to see our value. But okay, wait a second. If we want them to see it in us, then that means it's already here. So why can't we see it? It comes down to our own sense of recognition of ourselves. What do you want people to see in you? When you look for approval, when you look for validation, what is it that you want validated in you? Okay? What is it? I'll just pick some examples. You want to be validated as a good person. You want to be validated as a generous person, a compassionate person, a happy person. You pick whatever it is. So you want people to see that in you, right? Okay. So if you want people to see that in you, then that means you must on some level have it. Okay. So if you have it, and those are things that are valuable to other people, and I'm sure these things you would find valuable in other people. If they're valuable in other people, why are they not of value to you? It's a bit of a mind twister. Okay? And it's not that they're not valuable in you, it's that you lack the recognition of its value to yourself. And that's all about acceptance. I'm going to share something with you. When you start accepting yourself, which to me is synonymous with loving yourself, when you start seeing yourself with your divine eyes, and when I say divine eyes, I mean the way the universe sees you. And the way the universe sees you is without lack, L-A-C-K. The universe sees you as a powerful being because that's what you are. I understand that that's not what you believe, but that's just the limited ego. You have an ego, I have an ego, nothing wrong with that, but our ego is what limits our awareness, okay? So when you start looking at yourself with your divine eyes, or through the eyes of divinity, or through the eyes of source, let's use that word, you start to recognize aspects of yourself you haven't seen before. But it's not that they have never been there, it's just that you haven't seen them before. You haven't paid attention to them before. You haven't focused on them before. What you focused on was lack. When you begin to start that process, this is when you start to regain your power, because this is where your power is, in recognition of who you are, beyond your limited ego, or beyond your limited understanding of who you think you are. Okay? Because who you think you are is a thought, it's not the truth. Okay? What ends up happening is few things. One of the things that ends up happening is your world begins to go through a cleaning process. People you thought were your friends will start to react to you. Not everyone, but some. And that's pretty much a guarantee. When you start taking your power back, or when you start accepting your power, and therefore by accepting it, you embody your power more. Those people who were connected to you because of your insecurities are probably going to leave you. That's a guarantee. And there's something very strange that happens. I've seen it many times. It's happened in my life. Many, not all, but many people are intimidated by people who are in their power. It's kind of a strange phenomenon. But it's not strange when I think about it, because I remember I was in that space. I used to be very threatened and intimidated by people who are in their power. And I don't mean power, ego, I mean in their own quiet embodiment of their divinity. I used to be very threatened by it. And the reason for it was that because when I was faced with it, it was reminding me what I was not. It was reminding me of what I was not, but not because I was not powerful, but because I thought I was not powerful. Okay? So when you start to embody your power, you will start to disengage from disempowering situations. And some of those situations will be with people. Okay? So just know that when you start to create more powerfully, some people are going to leave you. And that's a good thing. And that's because the more your vibration rises, or the more you raise your vibration, it doesn't happen to you, you make it happen. The more those who vibrate on a much different level than you will no longer resonate with you, and you with them. And it will create a distance between you, and eventually it's going to break. So your relationships will change. You will lose certain people in your life. certain situations will just dissolve out of your life. But all of these will begin to be replaced by higher vibrational situations, relationships, and so on and so forth, including jobs. Okay? So part of the process of embodying your power involves the discomfort of being willing to let go of the aspects of your life that no longer serve you. Okay? Just like in the example that I gave, I had a situation that was no longer serving me, and I knew this for a while, but I just kind of chose not to do anything about it, and it was eating at me for a long time. And finally, something inside of me said, I have to put an end to it, because it keeps feeding my disempowered belief. And as long as I engaged in this disempowering ways, I keep feeding my disempowering belief. So it's a vicious cycle. It never ends. And letting go is hard to do. How do you let go? Well, you do your best to trust that if something is leaving your life, or you have the feeling like it has to go, that there is a darn good reason for it. And when you finally accept that it's part of you coming back into your own power, and accept that when one thing goes, something else will come in placement of it, except in a higher vibrational form, then it makes the process of letting go a little bit easier. Now, when it comes to relationships, jobs, anything that gives us sense of safety and stability, things that we learn to rely on. I mean, certain relationships, even disempowering, we learn to rely on. It's just part of our foundation. So when the universe says, hey, if you are ready to truly be in your power, then be prepared that you have to let this go, knowing that it will be replaced. But the sheer transition of letting it go before it's replaced, it's challenging. It's often painful. It comes with a certain level of risk because you don't know. But you always have a choice. Your choice is to stay in a disempowered state, or your choice is to move on to be in a more empowered state. There's something profound that happens when you begin to embody more of your power. The noise begins to quiet. You begin to settle inside. You become more in tune with you and your environment. You begin to perceive more of the subtleties that come with the universe communicating to you. Be guides, angels, spirit. I call it source. The whole universal library. Because remember, what separates you from source is your limited understanding of who you are. And therefore that limits your ability of how you create. So if you are, for example, in a disempowering engagement, a situation, ask yourself, how do you contribute to it? as I have contributed to mine by not saying what I wanted to say, by just kind of hoping it would go away, by tuning my voice down. You have to take the accountability for yourself. And saying they made me do it is not good enough. And I often say, becoming empowered is not for the faint-hearted. It's easy to say, I want to be in my power. But in order to do that, you have to start acting, behaving, thinking, actioning in empowering ways. And who's responsible for your thoughts? You are. Who's responsible for your actions? You are. Who is responsible for your behavior? You are. Even though it comes from unconscious beliefs and patterns, so you're not necessarily consciously choosing to behave a certain way. It just happens, but it's still you. You are still the person who is in control of your life. So one of the ways of empowering yourself is to know yourself, is to understand the purpose and the meaning of everything that you do. If you're wanting for people to validate you, as an example, ask yourself why. What's the purpose behind that? Generally, it's because you want to feel safe. You want to feel loved. You want to feel secure. Then that means you within yourself don't feel safe, you don't love yourself, and you don't feel secure. Now, that's not to say that the environment does not contribute to us feeling safe, loved, and secure. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all. Of course. Absolutely, 100%. I'm saying it contributes, but it is not the all and be all. It has to come from us. Because otherwise, we are giving our power away to the outside. And remember, you're not really giving power away. You are just choosing to act in disempowering ways. So what is your disempowerment? How do you choose to act in disempowering ways? What do you do to minimize yourself? How do you keep yourself down? How do you neglect yourself? How do you limit yourself consciously? How do you contribute to relationships that minimize you, that keep you in your place, that keep you confined? And this is not about you looking at yourself and judging yourself and saying, that's my fault. No, that's not. That is not at all what I want you to do. In fact, it's the opposite of that. I'd like you to do that in order to recognize how you use your power. Because to act in certain ways is you using your power. Okay? I've just been shown a circle, which means I'm coming to an end of this transmission for this part. And I'm going to pick 3 cards. Notice what cards you're drawn to, what card you're drawn to, and there's going to be a message for you. Okay? Okay, I'm just trying to look at which cards do I want. I'm going to use these cards. Sacred Spirit. Okay? Again, this is going to be purely intuitive. Some of the meanings I know, some I don't. All my divination tools are all intuitive. Okay. So if you are drawn to message number 1. Your message is be your own person from this time forward. What does that mean? Recognize your talents. Recognize your own talents. Recognize your own blessings. Recognize your own abilities. Recognize your ambitions. In other words, all the things you want others to recognize in you, you start recognizing it in yourself. It's going to bring you a great sense of satisfaction. Why? Because in recognizing those things in yourself, or those aspects in yourselves, you are beginning to shed or shine the light on your value. Which means you are focusing on your net worth. And I don't mean money here. You are focusing on your worth, not the opposite. When we want others to do that for us, it's generally because we focus on our lack of worth. Okay? Also, don't be pessimistic. If you're a pessimistic person, there's a reason for it. You probably have adopted that from some way of relating in your earlier years. I'm sure you have things that have happened to you, but pessimism doesn't help because it has a tinge of anger to it. And when we hold on to anger, it holds us back. So if you have a tendency to be very pessimistic, acknowledge it, but not from a space of judgment or beating yourself up. Rather, just recognize that, okay, I'm pessimistic. Why? What is the root of that? What is the cause of me having this pessimistic view? Because there is some unresolved hurt there. Okay? For some of you, it has to do with your father. Okay? I don't even know if I need a card, but let's see. If you resolve this pessimism within you, your life will begin to take a different turn, as if by magic. But right now, this pessimism, whatever is the root cause of your pessimism, which is some pain, unresolved, unhealed pain, is causing you to be stuck. Okay? If your view of the world is very pessimistic right now, there is some underlying condition that you have not resolved within you. And there is a lot of blame going on. Either you blame the world, or you have learned how to blame, which often comes from you having been blamed. Okay? If you have been blamed for somebody else's misfortunes, for example, if your parents blamed you from them being unhappy, you will have a tendency to blame the world and others for being unhappy yourself. Okay? Trust the process. I'm not saying it's easy, but trust the process. There is a webinar, I'm just being reminded, I have a few webinars coming up. One of them is about releasing yourself from certain relationships, or understanding why you are struggling with certain relationships, and healing your inner child relationship with you. If you are interested in that, it's on November 18th. And there's another workshop that's coming up on November 20th and 27th. It's a 2-day workshop on how to help you express your gifts into the world if you're wanting to start creating, being your own boss or your own entrepreneur. Okay? Be like a flower. Rise up to the sun. What does that mean? It means look up, not down. That's a metaphor. Okay? What do we have here? The card is called Sacred Temptation. Being led astray. Don't let other people's agenda deceive you. However it connects with you, okay? I don't necessarily think it has to do anything that's going on with the world right now with regards to the you-know-what. I don't necessarily think that's it. It's deeper than that. I get a lot of blame here. There's a lot of blame going on with message number 1. Either you blame the world for how you feel, which probably comes from having learned that behavior in some way. The word blame is huge in here for those of you who resonate with it. Just ask yourself, if you blame the world for your unhappiness, where does it come from? Because when you come into this world, you don't come into this world learning how to blame or blaming. You learn that. Okay? Do you blame yourself, perhaps? Perhaps learn how to blame yourself less. Because it's not about blame. Like if you're blaming yourself and you're stuck in a self-blame all the time, that's like being stuck in a prison. Doesn't help either. It's very discouraging. Now, learning from your mistakes is one thing, but learning and moving on and blaming are two different things. Okay? So, pile number 1, message number 1, blame. There's a huge, huge, huge message around blame. Okay? All right. Message number 2. Okay. Between two worlds. New direction. Pretty self-explanatory. I want to say life is as it seems, but not exactly. I'm not quite sure what that means. I think it's a play on words. Don't be deceived by your thoughts. Allow yourself to continue expressing your individual needs, learning how to ask for what you need. Don't be a victim. Okay? Ask for what you want. Ask for what you need. So the between worlds is not necessarily a physical move. In fact, for most of you, it won't be. It's about transitioning from one way of being to another way of being and the space in between. This is often about what you hold true to you. It is about the identification of the ego. How do you identify yourself? Shedding your old skin. The words ego death also comes in. So right now you are in a space where you are shifting your identity, how you identify yourself. For example, if you identify yourself as a poor person, and I don't necessarily mean poor as in finances, but internally, then you are moving on to recognizing yourself as a valuable person, a person that is full of value, full of worth. And incidentally, the way you perceive yourself in terms of value will be indicative in terms of physical value you attract to yourself. Not always, but often. Okay? If you don't think of yourself as a valuable person, you may often attract relationships that will make you feel like you are not valuable, like you are being taken for granted. Okay? Those are all connected. How you see yourself is often how other people see you. So if you want people to see you a different way, you need to start seeing yourself that way. Okay? The relationship you have with you is often a recipe for the relationship you have with other people in the world. So there's a shift here that's happening. And that's a good thing, but shift is generally not comfortable. None of this stuff is comfortable. I always say that. And I will always say it. If somebody says, personal growth is easy, whoever says that to you, they have not done any type of personal growth whatsoever. None whatsoever. It's not. Okay? Because personal growth is often about changing your inner language, changing your inner dialogue. It's like learning a new language. You first have to choose what language do you want to learn. Then you have to start learning it. Then you have to start practicing it. When you start practicing it, you become good at it. But before you actually get good at it, it's bloody uncomfortable. You make mistakes, you say things funny, you forget things, you mix things up. Okay? Now, just because it's challenging doesn't mean it's not doable. That's where the growth is. The growth is through the challenge. The growth is through the discomfort. Okay, so if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, pat yourself on the back. That's perfectly normal. It's standard. It's not supposed to be comfortable. If you are comfortable, you are not growing. So there's a lot of growth here that's being shown. Growth in terms of how you see yourself. Okay? I really like this. Very much. I keep seeing the number 10, so the month of October may be significant. Now I know this is October. I'm recording this in October, but the month of October somehow is significant. I'm not sure what birthday is in October. I'm not an astrologer. October, what do we have in October? Oh, I don't remember. Anyway, also indicative of ending of a cycle. So you are more likely than not transitioning out of one situation to another. Be work, career, relationship, the way you are in a relationship, the way you are with yourself, your own recognition of your own value. It's all empowerment. Okay? And this is very transformative. Because there is a lot of yellow and some orange, a lot of this is about shifting your ego, which is all about perception. Okay? Again, all about understanding yourself. Your ego is all about your perception. Being conscious of how you perceive yourself. Oftentimes we're not conscious. 95% of everything that we do, say, act, behave, or don't behave is rooted in our unconscious, which means we are unconsciously doing so. Okay? Number 3, I'm seeing the number 7, which to me always represents dynamic change and transformation that comes with, I want to say, hard lessons and enlightenment. It's also the number for July. So somehow July might be important to you. Maybe you have a birthday in July. Perhaps something transpired in July or will transpire in July to catapult you to a new level, or has past July, whenever you're hearing this, because these messages are timeless. You need to clean things up. There are several ways this message wants to play out. Clearing your environment. What is your physical environment? What is cluttered? If you live in a cluttered environment, then that's indicative of your cluttered mind. Okay? So maybe take some time and create more space in your physical space. Clean out or clean up some stuff you no longer need. Donate things you're no longer using. And make your space more useful. Find, yeah, it's just, I'm getting very clear sense of, strong sense of needing to clear your environment, your physical environment, okay? So maybe you used to be having a cluttered space. Cluttered space is very, outside space is very connected to cluttered mind. When you unclutter, you feel better, okay? Clean out your closets. Are you hanging on to clothes you haven't used for years? If so, why? That's an indication of attachment to your past. Let it go. I used to hold on to clothes for years and years and years, even though I never used it. Very much attached to it. And then it's like, every so often I give like bags and bags and bags away to Big Brothers or some other organization. Okay? Focus on what you want, your desires, versus what I'm getting is somebody's focused on, oh my God, I have to do this in order to get this. Oh my God, you're focusing too much on what needs to be done, which can be challenging, versus on what you desire. What you desire needs you to do certain things, and some of those things may be uncomfortable. But if you constantly focus on that discomfort, you're not doing yourself any favors. Think of it as a process that may be uncomfortable that eventually gets you to the place you want to be. Remember, if you are comfortable, you're not changing. You're not shifting. And I can tell you many things about being uncomfortable. Why don't you make discomfort your friend for a while? Okay? Don't be afraid of being uncomfortable. And no, it's not easy. Because generally when we are uncomfortable, we resist. And that's often when a lot of pain occurs. Psychological, emotional pain. Okay? Accept what is transpiring. If you cannot change what is transpiring and it is uncomfortable, then the other alternative is you have to accept it. Okay? See yourself on the other side of this challenge. Whatever this challenge is, see yourself on the other side of this challenge. The more you see yourself on the other side of the challenge, it acts as a magnet to pull you towards it. Make that your focal point. Okay? Be persistent. Be persistent. Trying something and giving up all the time is not going to get you any closer to what you want. And I see a lot of giving up. Oh, I'm giving up. Oh, I give up. Oh, I give up. If you give up easily, then perhaps it's telling you that you don't believe in yourself. And if that's the case, why? Why don't you believe in yourself? Do you not see your own value? Do you not believe that you are a powerful person? Because we already established that. You are, you may not see it, in which case, let's find ways for you to see how powerful you are. Let's find ways to recognize it. Let someone help you. I would be very honored to do that, but of course there's many other people. Always trust your intuition. Your intuition never, ever sways you in the wrong direction. Your intuition can often put you in a situation that is uncomfortable because there is something that you need to learn in order to take the learning to the next phase. There's many uncomfortable things that I have dealt with that I was intuitively led to, but inevitably these things have allowed me to gain wisdom and to gain tools and experience so that I can then move with it to the next phase of my journey. I wouldn't be able to do what I do right now, helping people transform their life, if I was not in peculiar situations myself, because I just wouldn't be able to do it. Okay? Your life is your oyster, but you have to see it in your mind and you have to believe it. What does that mean? It means that you are capable of anything. Whether you believe that, that's a separate thing. Then we have to talk about your beliefs. What does that mean? What are your beliefs? What do we need to do to shift your beliefs, consciously or otherwise? But you are capable of anything. Now, I'm not saying you can fly. I wouldn't necessarily step on the 4th floor of a building and start to fly. That's not a smart choice. But you understand what I mean, obviously. You are capable of so much more than you think. Okay? Birth and creation. Potential growth. What have I been saying? What have I been saying? You are at a precipice of a new beginning. There is a new world awaiting you, but you have to be persistent. You have to be honest with yourself and recognize what is within you that is keeping you stuck. What is within you that's making you think that you are incapable, unlovable, incompetent, not valuable? What is in you that believes that? I'll give you a hint. It's your inner child. Your inner child holds key to a lot of all this information. So perhaps what is in order or in divine order is to connect with your inner child. It is astonishing how many people are completely disconnected from their inner child. And our inner child, believe it or not, is what runs the show most of the time. We don't even know it. So by the way, the webinar on the 18th is connecting to your inner child and healing that, asking for guidance, what you can do to strengthen your relationship with your child. A lot of the times, the inner child feels unrecognized is because we push it away, we reject it, and then we want recognition from other people. So part of regaining our power or becoming more in our power is to start recognizing our inner child. Okay? So that's a very powerful message. All right. And for some of you, this actually may mean birth of a new situation or a physical birth. Okay? So if you have been trying for a while, I don't know why September comes up, but if you've been trying for a while, there is a potential for you to either get pregnant or having a child at some point soon, conceiving. Okay? Maybe some of you have conceived in September and you don't know it yet, or you just learned. Okay? I hope this was helpful. I would love for you to comment if you would like me to help you come into your own power more. That information is down below. If you would like to join me in the webinars, there's always a Q&A in there. Those links are down below. And I look forward to hearing your valuable comments. Thank you so much. And may you always recognize your own true power. Take care.